took this book out in 1971.
Yes, and I returned it in 1971.
Yeah, 71. That was my first year on the job. Bad year for libraries. Bad year for America. Hippies burning library cards. Abby Huffman telling everybody to steal books. I don't judge a man by the length of his hair or the kind of music he listens to. Rock was never my bag. But you put on a pair of shoes when you walk into the New York Public Library, fella.
Oh, just over the goal line of the Cowboys. Dorsett, single setback. Big opening for Tony Dorsett. Look out, he's got great speed. 99 yards and a half. Dorsett down the sideline. Stays in bounds. Can you believe that? And short, 99 yards. Short yardage defense, all bunched up. And that's the 99.5-yard run, I think, is the longest run in the history of the league. It is. And suddenly the whole momentum changes. But
let's face it, where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on. That's why I go to mybookie.ag. It's fast, it's easy, and they pay you when you win. Look, I wouldn't be telling you to bet mybookie.ag if they weren't the best. Do the smart thing. If you're going to bet this football season, bet with mybookie.ag. Promo code SKIN. That's SKIN. When you use that promo code, MyBookie will match 100% of your deposit up to $1,000. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SKIN.
6 rounds. TJ Hoshimazode. Yes. Lock it up.
Who?
What? TJ House of Vanilla. All right. TJ, who's your mama?
You mean TJ Hushmanzada from the Bengals?
Put him on the board. Hoshimazole. Got it. Championship.
Make sure to join the Armchair Quarterbacks right here. We'll answer all your questions, pickups, trades, you name it. You want to win your league? Then listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Fantasy football time.
Armchair.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, y'all. Get your morning started off right. Weekdays with the Armchair Quarterbacks. Riding shotgun with you wherever you're heading.
Good morning. Hello, and how are you? Early in the morning, I say good morning. Hello, and how are you?
Armchair.
Sometimes we're funny, sometimes we suck.
You don't have to be quiet. Listen to the echo. Hello!
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 Hello.
Mr. Bookman.
I remember when the librarian was a much older woman. Kindly, discreet, unattractive. We didn't know anything about her private life. We didn't want to know anything about her private life. She didn't have a private life. What are you thinking about that? Think about this. The library closes at 5 o'clock, no exceptions.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
But what the hell, boy?
Make sure to listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Good enough for us down here in the bayou. Go Tigers and the Armchair Quarterbacks.
It's morning.
Yes, and what a lovely morning.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name's Mike, and if you're sitting there watching this tape smoking your cigarette, well, hit the fast forward button, because I don't smoke and I don't like people who do smoke.
I'm not afraid to get sand on my tuxedo if you're not afraid to let the wind mess your hair up a little bit when I take the top down.
Perhaps even a nice bath with some champagne and candles.
Hi, Mom.
I do fashion photography, and I do consider myself a refined valley dude.
Armchair.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good morning, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Big-time prospect and explosive scoring guard Mikey Williams won't be eligible for the NBA draft until 2024 and still has nearly 2 years to decide on college basketball or a pro pathway, yet his massive social media following, more than 5 million across multiple platforms, has allowed Williams to become the first prep basketball star to sign with a major sports representation agency to pursue name, image, and likeness endorsements and scholarships. Williams, a San Diego native who will attend Lake Norman Christian in Huntersville, North Carolina, and play for Vertical Academy, has signed a deal with XL Sports Management that XL Vice President Matt Davis said he believes, quote, will generate millions of dollars for this young man, unquote. Miami Hurricanes are in the news, and it's not for a good thing. Hurricanes safety Avante Williams has been suspended by the team after he was arrested Wednesday on domestic violence charges, a university spokesman told multiple outlets. Williams, 20 years old, is facing 3 counts of aggravated battery of a pregnant woman, according to Miami-Dade County records. He is being held on $10,000 bond, quote, we are aware that football student athlete Avante Williams has been arrested by the Miami-Dade Police Department. He was immediately suspended from all team activities, unquote, the spokesman for the Miami Hurricanes said on Wednesday. Williams did not play for the Hurricanes last season after several medical issues were flagged during a preseason exam. He said on social media in March that he had been cleared to play. Williams joined Miami as a 4-star recruit and the nation's top safety in the class of 2020. Chicago White Sox rookie Yerman Mercedes wrote in an Instagram post on Wednesday night that he is, quote, stepping aside from baseball, unquote, indefinitely, while also apologizing to the team for not accepting some of their decisions. The post was accompanied with a picture of the word, it's over. Quote, I want to apologize to all those who I inadvertently offended as a consequence of my immaturity, like members of the radio, television, and press. To all the team members where I was involved with, I'm sorry for failing as a human being and for not accepting some of the decisions. I'm stepping aside from baseball indefinitely, unquote. It's unclear what decisions Mercedes was referring to in his post. Earlier Wednesday on Instagram, Mercedes had posted El Retiro, or retirement, with a thinking emoji. Mercedes is 28 years old, earned AL Player of the Week, and hit .415 with 5 homers, 16 RBI, 22 games into April. But he struggled after that. His batting average dropped to .271 before being demoted to AAA Charlotte. The White Sox were seemingly caught off guard by Mercedes' intentions Wednesday night. Quote, well, the White Sox are aware of tonight's Instagram post by Mercedes, who is currently on the active roster of our AAA team in Charlotte. At this time, the White Sox have not received any official notification from Yerman concerning about his future plans, unquote. Manager Tony La Russa, who learned about Mercedes' post after the White Sox 7-2 loss to the Twins on Wednesday, said he would try to reach out to him later. Your baseball gets rolling at 2:20 p.m. as the Cubs host the Diamondbacks. Zach Davies versus Zach Gallen. Braves and Phillies are back at it. Drew Smyly and Vincent Velasquez. Yankees, Red Sox, George Montgomery and Nathan Eovaldi take the mound. Cardinals and Reds, LeBlanc and Tyler Mahle. And at 7:10, it's the Tampa Bay Rays in Cleveland. Rich Hill is scheduled. He'll take on Zach Plesac. Crosstown rivals, so to speak. Washington is in Baltimore. Patrick Corbin and Jorge Lopez go head-to-head. Padres and Marlins, it's Musgrove versus Zach Thompson. And the Blue Jays and Hyung Ryu, they go to New York to take on the Mets and Tyler McGill. Angels and Twins at 8:10, Happ versus Cobb. The White Sox and Brewers are also at 8:10, Giolito and Adrian Hauser. Tigers and Royals, Willie Peralta will try to continue his great year. He's head-to-head with Danny Duffy. Rangers and Astros, the Battle of Texas, Kobe Allard, Jake Odorizzi are set to do battle. Will Crow and Johnny Cueto will face off at 9:45 as the Pirates travel to the San Francisco Giants. And Rockies and Dodgers. David Price on the mound to start the game. He's up against Senzatella as LA eyes the playoff race. A's are at the Mariners. Kikuchi versus Montas. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show and YouTube Live. Please like, subscribe, and share our show today. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk, live from the First Coast. Payoff pitch, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, here on the Armchair Quarterback Show's YouTube channel. We go live talking fantasy baseball, DFS, all through the world of analytics. Sean O'Toole, Stephen Troche. It's the payoff pitch every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, talking fantasy baseball. Good morning. It's time to wake up, y'all. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Good morning. I'm Mac McGee, and I don't know much, but I know one thing. Your man Mercedes is a damn liar. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks. What a liar.
Listen, it's really been a pleasure taking care of your dog for a week, but if you don't mind.
Prediction. You'll be calling me to ask if you can come and visit him before the month is out.
Prediction. I never see you or him again for the rest of my life.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks.
Hey, howdy, hi. Top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterback Radio Show. I'm Mac McGee, and I am flying solo right now. We might have one of our guys stop by, but we haven't verified that. But when I say I've got a lot to get into and a little time to do it, we've got a lot to get into. First of all, I want to go ahead and preface this with saying, when I cut the story yesterday, you remember Mercedes that said he was retired. I did not see the update until late this morning, right before I went on the air. I saw that he lied about it, and he's back. He came out with a tweet that says, "I'm back." And the funniest part about this, I get into more on this on the Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which if y'all never watched it, it's a really quick show that I do every day that gets you caught up in the news and notes of the world of sports. So it's a lot of stuff I don't cover on this show because we just don't have enough time. But long story short, he put out a tweet that said, "I'm back." And then when he comes back, he says something to the effect, or maybe it was Instagram, I don't know. But he comes back and says, "I'll never quit." No, that's not true. You didn't quit, you jackass. You quit 2 days ago, and you just came back and you realized how stupid it was. But anyways, we'll move on from that. All right, number one with the bullet today. Let's go ahead and start this off on the Armchair Quarterbacks Radio Show. First of all, I just want to get into the fact that I don't know if a lot of people pay attention to this, but this is the last week that we don't have football. Next week, the training camp's open. The week after that, so what is today? 2 weeks from yesterday. 2 weeks from yesterday, we are going to get our first preseason football game, the Hall of Fame game. And then, of course, the rest of the preseason will be rolling. So, for all intents and purposes, today, I believe, ends what I call the first half of the sports year. The second half of the sports year begins next week because you're going to get the NFL training camps opening up. There's always news popping out on that. You know that. We're going to be all over it. But you know there's always an injury, a trade, a pickup, et cetera, et cetera. If you missed it yesterday, the Steelers linebacker retired after 8 seasons. That's going to put them in a hell of a damn mess because they're already fit at that position. And
And then, of course, they've got the offensive line issues that we've documented on the fantasy shows. Najee Harris is going to be asked to tote the note, but how much room he's going to have to run is a different story. But with all that being said, this is the end of the first half, so congratulations, you made it. You made it through the NBA playoffs, which I'm sorry, they just aren't what they used to be. They're kind of dull nowadays. I enjoyed it to a degree, and I did watch a lot of it, but the entire time I watched, I was like, it isn't the same. It just isn't. You don't get the defense you used to get. You just get the hard fouls. It used to be really fun to watch NBA basketball. I'm not putting this all on LeBron and the wokeism and whatnot. I'm talking about the product that's on the actual court. It's just not as fun anymore. And so we're glad we get out of that. We got through the hockey season. They're still playing hockey. But let's be honest, there's only a small percentage of you out there who are diehard hockey fans. Majority of people watch the playoffs, and that's about it. That's about where I'm at. I'll watch a regular season game every once in a while, but it's got to be a team that I'm really into, and it's got to be a showdown that I'm looking forward to. Things don't happen much in hockey, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, so I won't go into it again, but basketball NHL seasons are too long, so no one cares about the regular season. We never will. We never will care about the regular season. But past that, we've gotten past the first half of the sports year. It's been a pretty good sports year. Good hockey playoffs, good basketball playoffs for what they're worth, and then, the College World Series landed on done because they had the fake championship where they eliminated North Carolina State for no apparent reason. That sucked, but the softball was pretty good. We got some pretty good soccer. We're getting into the Olympics, and that's another reason why I'm bringing this up. The Olympics officially start today. Right now, the opening ceremonies are going on. They're brutal. They're absolutely brutal. I had it on a random extra device all morning because I was really curious to see what. I always do this as I'm preparing for the show. I'm looking at the news of the day, and I'm also seeing what's going on. And what's going on right now is the opening ceremonies are terrible. And I get they're in a tough spot because they're flipping out because they have COVID cases that are rising. You look at the numbers, they're not as bad as it's being reported. ESPN has been leaning on this for 3 or 4 days because they desperately want they want the Olympics to get shut down. Are you kidding me? It's disingenuous as hell what they're doing at ESPN, but they're begging for it to get shut down because they know that if it goes off without a hitch and there's not any kind of controversy, like someone, kneeling or turning their back on the flag and all that junk that the women's soccer team did the other day. By the way, they lost. Ha ha ha. We'll not be pulling for them. When it's all said and done, most people are going to watch the Olympics because you get it once every 4 years. This time it's been 5 years since we've seen it. And they're just different sports. You get to watch it. It's neat. And I for one, will watch it. I'm not going to watch any of the flag ceremonies if they turn into some political junk for any country. Because the IOC is absolutely stating you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do any kind of political junk because it's supposed to be you getting your medal. If you want to do some political stance, do it outside of the ceremony itself because your country paid for you to get there, and they don't want you essentially pissing on their flag, right? And so this generation of, no, I'm entitled to everything. No, you're not entitled to everything. So that'll unfold. But ESPN desperately wants this whole thing shut down because they know that no one's going to watch ESPN for the next 2 weeks. Now, how many people are watching it now? But no one's going to watch it for the next 2 weeks. The only saving grace is that NFL camps will open up and their news will pop and all that kind of stuff. But they don't really have any kind of content that's going to get people to watch. That's what I do think as we get more and more into this, I do believe ESPN is going to push for it, and they're going to have the money. They've got the power. they are going to push for college football to start earlier and earlier and earlier. Because if you start talking about expanding the playoffs, like they've talked about in all of these Big 12, Big 10, ACC, and SEC conferences. I watched them all this week, kind of get caught up on the news, and I also want to see, what the coaches have to say, the players, that kind of thing. I did find it funny. So if y'all remember, a couple of years ago, we did a fantasy football contest with something called 3-point conversion. And they're basically Atlanta base of what we do here in Jacksonville. We do it abroad. We do it everywhere. And they do it at a little radio station in Atlanta. I think it's a college radio station. It may be an actual professional radio station. I could be wrong on that. But the sound looks like a college radio station, so I just always assumed. But I can be dead wrong on that. But anyways, they do the content. And one of the gentlemen from 3-point was at the ACC conference, because we could go if we wanted to. I just have never had the time, the money, etc. But it takes nothing to get the credentials. And if we ever get this thing going in the right direction, where I hope we'll be at in a couple of years, and the numbers are showing me that I think we're on the right track. We'll see what happens. That's assuming I don't black out and cuss everyone out on the planet and they shut us down. But anyways, that could happen. But anyways, they were at the conference because one of them asked a question to Dabo Sweeney about him not being a proponent of the NIL, which is players getting paid. And I will say this for the guys. First of all, we kicked their ass in the fantasy league. That's simple. That's the only thing that's really important. We heard this guy was a gunner, one of these guys they brought with, and I smoked him. But anyways, we absolutely just destroyed their fantasy football team. It was me, Will, Steven, and I don't remember who the fourth. It was this other idiot that's not on the show that we had to carry him. But regardless, we smoked these guys, right? So they wouldn't play the second time. I sent messages. I never got responses. But anyways, they were basically embarrassed the fact that they got their ass kicked. But this guy stands up and he asks a question to Dabo, asking whether or not, and I'll try to get the video, and maybe I'll get it next week or something when Justin's on. But asked him about being a proponent of NIL, and you can go back and see the news conference. Dabo put him in his place. He said, I don't know where you're getting that information from, but people say this and people say that. He was very politically correct on how he said it. But he basically said, you're listening to a narrative that's been twisted, or maybe they were even twisting the narrative. I don't know. I haven't listened to their show in a while because it comes on at a really strange time. But I mean, typically they come on right in the middle of college football on Saturday. So I tried to listen to your show a little bit. But anyways, the point is, the whole thing with these news conferences, they are entertaining whether people get dove into them or not. And I know I watch more than most, but this was an entertaining news conference. Now when we got to the players say the same damn things over and over, but I like to hear what the coaches have to say. Dino Banders from Syracuse was a very good interview, and I've got others recorded that I'm going to go back and watch this weekend. That's one of the things I've got planned to do this weekend. So, but the point is, we're at the end of it all. We're at the end of the terrible first half of the sports season. We get in the second half and it flies by because it's so much fun. We're going to blink and it's going to be freaking Super Bowl weekend. Because I basically call the first half the day after the Super Bowl, the second half when football starts. And football has essentially started because Cowboy Camp opened up and there's other camps opening up. And they'll all be opened up by next week. Other things that are going on in the world of sports. Back to the Olympic thing really quick. If you don't want to support your country, because there's like 150 ex-Olympic athletes that have signed some petition to try to get the IOC judgment overturned about display, don't go. Don't don't go, and the famous guys from the 60s that put their fists in the air for the Black Panther Party, they signed it. I'm sure Kaepernick's on this. I don't know who's all on the list, but I think they specifically went after Olympic champions. If you don't want to do it, if you don't want to represent that country, don't go with that country. Because you absolutely, look at that music. Sometimes I get going. I forget I have the batting practice music on. Don't go to the damn thing. Absolutely don't go. Or go represent another country. But if you're that against, look, I'm going to put it this way to every American athlete. If you're this against America and what it stands for and what the flag stands for, go elsewhere. We don't stop you from moving anywhere. Right? We don't. So go elsewhere and find out what it's like on the other side. You think the grass is always greener, people always do. Go elsewhere and we'll find out what's what. Just go elsewhere. I don't care where you go. You're going to be begging to come back. But when you go and you become a citizen, don't be a dual citizen. Renounce your U.S. citizenship. Go wherever the hell you think it's better. And don't come back. Because we are a country that has been through a lot, that has done a lot in a very small period of time. And everyone has their faults. But pound for pound, as they always say in sports, pound for pound, the United States is the greatest country on earth, and I will refuse to believe anything else. I'm not saying there aren't other countries that are good, but there's none better. The system we have in place, you may be against capitalism, but look what it's brought us. And there's always some dope in the room that, is against capitalism. But without capitalism, you wouldn't have what you have. And so that's my stance. I won't go on a long thing, but I just want to get that in there. We talked about the NFL with the Steelers injury. Moving past that, you see this thing with DeAndre Hopkins? He tweeted out. Now he's taking the tweet down. He's talking about whether or not he thinks he will play this year or going forward, period, because he does not want to get the vaccine. And the NFL is not forcing him to get the vaccine, but what they've come out and said is that if you don't have the vaccine and there's an outbreak on your team and you can't play that game, they're going to force you to forfeit. And I'm not going to get into whether or not someone should take the vaccine or not. That is a personal choice. You do whatever the hell you want to do. But if you're a professional athlete, and the other big thing is, I think this is the one that really jumped out. Hopkins can say what he wants. He says, I don't want to let my team down, blah, blah, blah. It was the fact that they said game checks would be involved. And when a player starts seeing his money taken away from him, then all of a sudden they're going to think twice about not doing what everyone else is doing to try to keep it a safe environment. And so that's what you have Hopkins at right now. I think he'll play. I think it's much to do about nothing. I think it was I'm hot, I'm heated, I'm going to go out and I'm going to say something on Twitter and I'm going to take it down. It's the same kind of thing. It's not to the same embarrassing level that Mercedes did, but it's very close. And so with all that being said, I just don't think that I don't think anything's going to come of this. He's got too much money on the table. And if he's smart with his money, he's done a great job with his money. He probably can't afford to retire. But if you can't and you're not sure, I'm going to put it to you this way, DeAndre. There's no job on earth that you're going to make as much money at doing what you're doing now. That's just the cold, hard facts. And the NFL, it's a business, and they look at it as this. We are not going to take a week 4 game and cram it in at the end and delay our playoffs, et cetera, because it's a television show and the show must go on. And we don't want any of this junk we had to go through last year. We were forced to go through last year. Now there's a way to not go through it. And if you don't want to take it, that's fine. But these are the consequences. And so that's what you have going on there. And then real quick before we get into the football, you see ESPN is at it again.
first of all, they've been lean. I talk about how they're leaning into the COVID story in Japan. They want it shut down because they don't want everyone watching NBC. They want everyone watching Disney. ESPN, ABC, right? So they're always disingenuous. That's why I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. NBC has got to be irate that people are even asking this question because look, they're putting a lot of money into this, et cetera, et cetera. People, the viewership actually ought to be up a little bit because you don't have any fans in the stands. So everyone in Japan is going to have to watch. They can't go to it. But all in all, give it a rest, ESPN. I mean, give it a rest, bro. Do what you know. The only things that you know is the NBA, which the draft is coming up next week. That's the other thing in the second part of the sports world or the sports year. And it'll be trade deadlines next week. The one or two baseball guys you still have, work them to death the next 7 or 8 days. And do that. Because there's a lot of Americans that won't watch the Olympics because not because of the protesting, because they're not into the awkward and weird sports or the off-brand sports. I guess I should call them awkward, but I enjoy those. I will watch those because it's different. I won't watch them every. I'm gonna get into curling now. No, you watch it once every 4 years. You're not getting into it, so. I will watch a weird sport. I never like curling. And by the way, I think that's Winter Olympics, but I will watch the track and field. I will watch a lot of stuff that I only watch when this happens. I don't watch the world championships of track and field. I only watch the Olympics. I'm sure they find the other ones more important because they make more money because track and field is an enormous sport overseas. It's a who gives a damn here in the United States, but it's an enormous sport overseas. People come out to support track and field. A lot of it has to do with nationalism, but they come out. So I will watch it. I will watch it, but ESPN's trying to get you away from it. Just do what you do. You have 48 guys who know football, 48 guys who know basketball, and 2 guys that know baseball. You're just going to have to work the baseball guys to death this week. You're going to have to get Jeff Passan and Buster Olney, and you're just going to have to work them to death and just go, what do you got? What's the trades? So there's that, but they're also in it again because did you see that they dropped Maria Taylor? And this is pretty funny. They dumped Maria Taylor after she threw Rachel Nichols under the bus. And some people want to go after ESPN for it. But for one time, I'll say bravo. Because I wouldn't play that dirty politics game with her either. That's what Maria Taylor tried to do. She tried to extort her way into, remember I told you last year, 2020, they offered her a contract worth, I believe it was $5 million a year. And she's not worth it. In fact, I know it was 5 because it was Sean and I that was talking about it. She's not a brand yet. She has to build her brand. Well, she overplayed her hand, as they say, and she was looking for Stephen A. 8 million money because she's looking at the fact that she's an attractive female. She was also trying to play on the race baiting, and you knew this was what she was at because of what was going on in 2020, and then also she had that audio in her pocket that she knew she could drop right before the negotiations. To me, that's kind of stupid because she should have dropped it when it was hot and heavy last year in the middle of the summer. If she would have dropped that audio in the middle of the summer last year when she first supposedly got it, I don't know this for a fact, but that's the rumors. She could have absolutely levied that into a heavy contract and probably gotten Nichols fired, which is what it sounds like she was trying to do. She was trying to fire Nichols, who had worked her ass off. I'm not the biggest Rachel Nichols fan, but she worked her ass off, built a brand over the years. You got to respect that. She's never did anything terrible to anybody that I know of. Worked hard, made her brand, deserves everything that she should get. And now Rachel Nichols is a part of the casualty But yeah, ESPN at it again. And to that point, talking about how bad their ratings have been, this came out the other day. I didn't get a chance to get into it, but did you see Good Morning America in the Today Show? And then there's the third one. I forget what the third one's called because no one watches it. Their ratings came out recently. And you compare it over 5 years ago, it's down 50%. 50% viewership. Now, I don't think it's got anything to do with people turning them off because of their politics. Although I have heard that those shows have gotten a little bit like that, but I honestly have never watched them. So they didn't lose me as a viewer. I never watched it to begin with my entire lifetime. I remember my mom watching when I was a kid growing up, getting ready for school, and that would be on in the background. And all I could think of is, man, you put Sports Center on. That's all I ever thought about. But I never paid attention because I always thought it was a goofy concept, but I get it. People who don't watch sports have to have something to wake up to. But evidently it is gone. Nobody's watching it anymore. I don't know what the real reason. I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that you have so many options to watch in the morning, streaming, etc. That now if you I bet there's kids that wake up in the morning that don't even watch anything that's current, that just wake up as they're getting ready for school and whatnot, have like an episode of Friends or something like, I'm sure it's something more updated than that, but I'm old about it. But Friends or something on in the background. They're watching Ross and Rachel for the 5,800th time because it's what they want to watch and they can watch it. So that's concerning for evidently a lot of their contracts are coming up and the advertisers don't want to pay that premium dollar for less viewership. So keep an eye on that. Those shows may go by the wayside in the very near future. Look, we got to take a really quick break or the stations are going to kick my ass. So when we come back, it's Southern Cal and Washington, Pac-12 football, and we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be back in a flash here on the Armchair Quarterback. Keep it locked in here to CBS Sports Radio. We'll be back in just a few.
Your life is so dumb.
6th round. TJ Hoshimazode. Yes. Lock it up.
Who?
What? TJ, how's the vanilla? All right. TJ, who's your mama?
You mean TJ Hushmanzada from the Bengals?
Put him on the board. Hoshimazole. Got it. Championship.
Make sure to join the Armchair Quarterbacks right here. We'll answer all your questions, pickups, trades, you name it. You want to win your league? Then listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Fantasy football time.
This is Jim Rome. Join me in the jungle for your phone calls and the biggest names in sports. Stop by weekdays, noon until 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in socially distanced dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
Hi, this is Britney Spears.
What up, this Jay-Z.
This is Jennifer Lopez. Armchair.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by our mystery sponsor, a product that is so good that they're paying us to keep anyone from associating it with this program.
Well, hey there, pal. First draft?
What can you tell?
Look, there's a few things you're going to want to know. Kickers go fast. You're going to take one early. And don't worry about running backs. You can always trade for one later.
Cool, thanks.
And one more thing. It's good to have you here. You're my friend.
Armchair.
The Armchair Quarterbacks are covering America's pastime from spring training all the way to the Fall Classic.
5-2 Dodgers in the ninth. Got him. They've done it. Like the 1969 Mets. It's the impossible dream revisited.
And Myers bringing it. And the pitch is hit in the air. Foul off first. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it. It's a base hit. It's a 1-0 10-inning victory.
Bell, left field, way back. Blue Jays win it. The Blue Jays are World Series champions.
as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run in the 9th inning, and the Blue Jays have repeated as World Series champions. Touch 'em all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Armchair.
I took my shot. I didn't mean to hurt you. Something stupid and something painful. At least I know my weapon.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Armchair Quarterbacks. As we are rolling here on a Friday, Football Friday, and I'm looking forward to a good weekend. I don't know about y'all. I'm looking forward to an outstanding weekend in the world. We got the Olympics kicking off in full. I know they've been playing some soccer and whatnot, but I mean, snore. Even as much as you can be into soccer, they're not even using their elite players. You're still seeing the major leagues, so to speak, around the world of soccer still playing. So it was explained to me that the guys playing in the soccer, now they're not doing this in the women's because Megan Rapinoe's ancient ass is still in there playing, but in the men's, from my understanding, that was explained to me, is that 23 and under is the cutoff in the men's. Now, I don't know if that's true for every country, but that's what was being explained to me during the Brazil-Germany game. So, with that being said, I mean, snore. I don't care who your who's at the best fourth string team in the world of anything is. It's bad enough what the basketball is going to be like, right? By the way, the news has broken out that Bobby Bowden has pancreatic cancer. So that's what the terminal illness is, and we all know that they have not found a cure for that. So I just hope that his whatever time we have left with him, it's an enjoyable time for him. But I just saw that break across the line. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some college football. We are going to leave you with the Cowboys because this is pretty funny. But with the Cowboys, you know what? No. I'll do that at the end. I want to jump to it because it's so damn funny. But anyways, we'll start off with Southern Cal and Washington. I'm going to do Washington first because basically they're in my notes first. That's the reason. I ain't got no other reason for that. Anyways, the Washington Huskies. So I got to reading on them last night and did not realize how good they may be. Now, there's a lot of factors involved, and I do remember when Sam Huard signed with them, he was one of the top quarterback recruits in the country. Excuse me. I believe he was he's a 5-star recruit, and he's coming in as a guy that can definitely battle for the quarterback position. Dylan Morris was the starter last year. Now, last year, between the Pac-12's terrible job of dealing with their season, and I think they must have got a couple of games shut down. I don't really remember it. You know, I didn't get locked into Washington Husky football, especially since it didn't start till like December. It felt like they only played 4 games. They went 3-1, but Dylan Morris was the quarterback. And, you know, the thing about him is he's one of these guys that guts out wins, right? But this Sam Huard, he is, by the way, the son of Damon Huard and the nephew of Brock Huard. I'm sure everyone remembers Brock. So he's got both those guys, by the way, played for Washington. So he's got the what do they call them when they're in a frat? A legacy. He's a legacy. So all the fans want to see him. Plus, he's a 5-star. He's not like he just barely they didn't give him a sympathy scholarship. This guy's a Washington Husky. I think it's going to be really hard for Dylan Morse to keep the job, but we'll see what happens. This first year, sometimes freshmen take a while to develop, but this team, they're bringing back 7 guys on defense. They got a new defensive coordinator in Bob Gregory. He was the linebackers coach. He basically just got elevated because their defensive coordinator left to go to Texas, if you remember that. And so what you have now is you're going to have the same defense set up. They're a solid defense. They should be able to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. That's where their bread is buttered. But their secondary is the big question mark. Now they've brought in some guys, had a couple of transfers, along with a decent recruiting class. That's going to be the number one question. Of course, in the Pac-12, where they throw the ball a lot, you've absolutely got to have a good secondary. But when I look at their schedule and their second game is at Michigan, that's going to be a key game for them on the national scale. They're at Michigan. Other big games at Oregon State at home against UCLA. Arizona's been really bad. I'm not worried about that. At Stanford, they've got the talent to beat Stanford. But this team, their big game, it's probably going to decide whether or not they go to it all, where they go play for it all in the Pac-12 championship. Is the Oregon game on November 6th. They get it in Washington. And I think that's huge. Now, Oregon's going to be really good. But Washington has a chance to win this division as long as they don't stub their toe along the way and get to that game with one loss or less. Because if you can beat Oregon, then you would have the tiebreaker. The Arizona State game the next week could be the stumbling block, because I could definitely see a situation where they go into that game with one loss, because it's a pretty basic schedule. They don't have a lot of stumbling blocks until they get to November. They beat Oregon. Let's say they upset Oregon. The next week they have to play at home, but they're playing Arizona State. That's one of the best teams in the Pac-12 as well this year. And then they go to Colorado, that 3-game stretch. And if you want to throw the Stanford game in, you can as well. At Stanford, at home against Oregon, at home against Arizona State, and at Colorado. And then they finish it all off 5 days or 6 days later, home against Washington State. Their entire season is going to be decided from right around October 30th on. Now, from the national scale, that Michigan game's huge. It's absolutely enormous. Because if they can find a way to win that game, then you can start talking about national playoffs, right? But if you drop that game, it makes it really difficult. You'd have to run the table, win the Pac-12 championship, et cetera, et cetera. I've got Washington finishing second in the North behind Oregon. But I could definitely see a path where they could upset Oregon because the game is at home and upset them on the scale of the entire season, which would be enormous. If Washington can upset Oregon, holy cow, because Oregon's got a loaded team. We talked about them recently. I believe it was Sean and I, and they have got a loaded team. They're not just Pac-12 championship game or bust. They are Pac-12 title and hoping to get into the 14 playoff or bust. Oregon brings them all back, and they had a pretty good team to begin with. Moving on to Southern Cal. Now, this team, when you talk about loaded, this team is loaded. And Kadon Slovis might be the best quarterback prospect in all of college football. So if you haven't watched a lot of Southern Cal games, I get it. Most of y'all that watch our show live on the Eastern time or Central time, east of the Mississippi, essentially. So I get it why you wouldn't watch a lot of Pac-12 games. Kadon Slovis is the real deal. He's a very good quarterback. He's a junior this year. Everyone expects him to go pro. And they should be at look. They only played, what did they play last year? 6 total games, including the Pac-12 championship. Because remember, that was the big thing with them. They were 5-0, and should they be allowed to go to the Pac-12 championship when you only played 5 freaking games? But they lost to Oregon, and I think we're going to get a rematch. I think we're going to get a all-out rematch, and they don't have a stumbling block except at Notre Dame October 23rd out of conference. This is their schedule. San Jose State and Stanford. At Washington State, Oregon State. At Colorado, home against Utah. At Notre Dame, at home against Arizona. At Arizona State. At Cal, and then they finish it off at home against UCLA and home against BYU. Now, BYU might be hitting on all cylinders by the time we get to that final weekend. We'll see. But right now, you got to look at BYU's in a rebuild because they lost Zach Wilson. The stumbling, you're always got to be concerned about the UCLA game because, hey, it's a rivalry. And I've seen that game for so many years. It's one of the few Pac-12 games I really get locked into, mainly because the time of year that it happens, there's usually really bad football games everywhere else because they've moved it up to the second to last game of the season. So it no longer goes up against like the Iron Bowl and whatnot. They're playing that game when like Alabama's playing, Georgia State, and the Gators are playing Grambling and all kinds of other junk that's going on. So usually UCLA and USC is a pretty good game. That game, all bets are off because it's a rivalry game, but we'll just assume that they're going to win because they're the better roster. Washington State may be tricky, but I see Notre Dame being one of their most difficult games, mainly because it's in Notre Dame. If it was in Los Angeles, I wouldn't give Notre Dame as much of a chance of winning that game, especially because it's in the middle of the year. Towards the end, who knows? Notre Dame might have put it together, but they lost some guys too. So we haven't gotten to Notre Dame yet, so I won't go into a deep dive yet. We do have them on the docket in the very near future. But USC, I fully expect them to make it to the Pac-12 championship. I expect them to be bare minimum. They're being projected over here, and I guess it's because they most likely have Arizona State in this. I'm looking at one of the publications. Yeah, they have Arizona State winning it all or winning the division. That game is at Arizona State, and I get that, and that's going to be a tough game. But I just believe that USC's got more firepower, and they're going to be able to and I also think they're going to be on a mission. I'll tell you what, if Kadana Slovis and company cannot get to the championship game, the Pac-12 championship game, Clay Helton, his seat has been hot the entire time. He's been there 5.5 years. So this, for all intents and purposes, is his 7th season as head coach. Because he took over halfway in his first year. But they've got Slovis. They've got the air raid offense with Graham Harrell. They've got they are loaded at wide receiver. When you've got guys, I mean, like Drake London. Drake London is going to be their go-to guy. Keep an eye on him. NFL draft, all that. Drake London, 6'5". He has finally given up basketball to focus on football. This guy can sky in the end zone. And then they got the 4-star guys coming in, Jackson Dart, Miller Moss. They're loaded. And also remember Keontae Ingram from Texas transferred in, running back. Now, I don't know if he's going to get the starting nod at the beginning, but it would stand to reason that he's going to have a heavy load. For people who don't remember, Vave Malape, I know it's a goofy name for a running back. You don't normally that doesn't sound like a running back, right? That sounds more like a either an offensive lineman who transferred in somewhere, or maybe someone who played defense. But he has been electric. Bruce McCoy, the 5-star recruit from a couple of years ago. They are going to be loaded at the skill position. I think USC is going to find their way into the Pac-12 championship. If they don't, Clay Helton's going to be gone. And are they going to be mad in Los Angeles? Because I think they probably could have had Urban Meyer. Now, Urban Meyer might have faked a heart attack by the time we get to that, and he might head to Los Angeles by next year. But Clay Helton, I'm almost positive they say, Urban Meyer wanted a new challenge, wanted to go to the NFL. No, Southern Cal job was open when Urban Meyer was still a free agent. Urban Meyer would have went there. He would have wanted to prove that he can go out and win in Los Angeles. He would have loved the LA light, the limelight. You kidding me? And he might have picked Jacksonville over Los Angeles this year because he wouldn't have to deal with the goofy shutdowns. But give it a couple of seasons, I'm sure that if you got a USC fan that in your life somewhere, ask them if they aren't pissed off that they didn't fire Clayton to go after Urban Meyer. Because I think they could have had him. I absolutely think they could have. But that defense, they've got a 5-star recruit coming in. His name's Corey Foreman. Just keep that name in your hat. He was the #1 recruit in the United States. A lot of publications have him as the #1 recruit. He was definitely the #1 defensive end. Corey Foreman. And remember Chris Steele, the guy that at the University of Florida, that Dan Mullen wouldn't get him out of the room, bunking with the guy that was accused of 4 rapes in the same summer, and he wouldn't let him move out. He goes, we'll deal with it in the fall, and he transferred. He originally transferred to Oregon, and then he went to Southern. So anyways, he's back at Southern Cal. Chris Steele. Chris Steele is another name to keep an eye on, and then all Pac-12 Drake Jackson. The defense should be pretty good. I'm not saying they're going to be elite, but they should be good enough. And if you got the firepower with USC, I think USC is going to be a very, very good team this year. They'll sniff the playoffs. So there you have that. So I do have USC making it to the Pac-12 championship. All right. Real quick news and notes before we get the hell on out of here. A couple of things I won't be able to get into that we will do in the Take Me Out to the Ball game. But the Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones, Barry Switzer story that came out a couple of days ago, this is funny. And we haven't talked about this, but the short of it is, if you haven't heard this story, Jerry Jones says that during the early 90s, mid 90s, when Jimmy was leaving, Barry was coming in, Jerry's dealing with the whole thing. Switzer wanted Jimmy Johnson to come in the office and talk to him, and Jerry told him, "No, Jimmy's gone. He's not coming in the office. He's gone." He says, "Well," and he asked me, "Well, why the hell do you want to talk to Jimmy Johnson anyways? This is your team now." He goes, "I just wanted to get y'all in the same room and ask y'all how the hell you effed this up." Now, that's not what he said. He used the real word. But how did y'all F this up? That is so Barry Switzer. I still say that Super Bowl ring that he got, half of it belongs to Jimmy Johnson. Now, he was the head coach that year. You can't take that away from him. But Jimmy deserves at least to be known for another half ring. he got his back-to-backs, and then he retired. Then he came back and came to the Dolphins, et cetera, et cetera. But I've always looked upon as Jimmy at least having another half ring, because Jimmy put that team together. Jerry Jones, with his incredible ego, it's so funny that he says now, I would do anything. I would do anything. What was the quote? I would do anything known to man to get back to the Super Bowl. But you wouldn't swallow your pride. If you would have swallowed your pride, Jimmy Johnson would have had, for those of y'all who have forgotten, or those of y'all might be a little too young to remember, the Cowboys were so good back then. There was a collective sigh when Jimmy Johnson walked away, because we thought we were about to watch more than what Brady and Belichick did. Remember, Brady and Belichick had a huge gap, and it wouldn't have lasted as long. But I believe if they would have stayed together, Jimmy and Jerry, the Dallas Cowboys, most likely in the 90s, they got 3 championships. I think they would have gotten at least 5. And it might have spilled over into the early 2000s. That team would have won 5, maybe even 6 titles. But they would have gotten 5. There's no way Jimmy Johnson wouldn't have gotten 5 championships. And that would have been the big deal back then, because back then, remember, the ceiling was 4. You had the Steelers for 4. You had the 49ers for 4. And everyone back then, because the Super Bowl was still pretty new. Back then, it was like, man, that's a lot. That'll never be touched. And then you have to think about it logically. Well, come on, man. They're going to keep playing, and eventually they're all going to get these Super Bowls, and franchises go on forever. But the Cowboys of the 90s, in their heyday with Jimmy Johnson, that's arguably the best NFL team I ever saw. And I hate to admit that, because I'm not a Cowboy fan by any stretch of the imagination. You couldn't stop that team. That defense was elite. Emmitt Smith in that offensive line. And oh, by the way, Troy Aikman, one of the most accurate passers in the history of the playoffs in the National Football League, still to this day. Him and Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper. A lot of people forget about Alvin Harper. That team was elite. And then, of course, they had Novacek. You had no answer for Novacek. That you couldn't stop that team. When that team was playing well and they got hit it on all cylinders, it was over. We can't stop this team. We can't score on this team. The defense was ridiculous. The defense was ridiculous. At least 5 championships, maybe 6 or 7, but that's asking for a lot for health and whatnot. Because remember, health ended up taking out Irvin and Aikman to where they didn't play as long as like a Brady played. Brady's got 7. Brady's also been playing for like 50 years. It's ridiculous. But he's taking care of his body. Cowboys were not taking care of their body. They were rocking and rolling and drinking and snorting and anything you could get your hands on. But an elite team. And that's why people who are, what are they called? Gen Xers and older. That's why a lot of them are Cowboy fans to this day. A kid who's like 20 doesn't understand the allure of the Cowboys. They haven't been that good during their lifetime. But they were the best team that I had ever seen in the 90s. And in the 70s and prior, they were always really good. They'd won some Super Bowls. They were always in the conversation. Jerry Jones crapped the bed on that one. He doesn't want to admit it. Now he's saying, "Oh, I effed it up now," but blah blah blah. But that's just because he's trying to be jovial. He's getting old. He's just you're getting old and soft. He did not want to admit that back in the day. He let but a lot of these billionaires, a lot of these businessmen, they're all the same. They have such super egos that it is you'll never understand it's why they're successful in the business world, but it's also why they're extremely unsuccessful in their personal life. Because their egos, it's the epitome of narcissism. And so that's what you got there. But anyways, I had to address the fact that those Cowboy teams, and I'm not a Cowboy fan, but you try to show me a better team than the Dallas Cowboys back-to-back championship teams. They don't exist. There might be teams that are just as good. You know, I'll give Montana and his 49ers their due. The Steelers of the 70s, I didn't grow up watching them. It's a little before my time, so to speak. The Packers of the 60s, definitely wasn't around for that. I can't put the Patriots in because you can't give them a collective because there were so many different moving parts over a 6 championship run over almost 20 years. Man, those Cowboys, how about them Cowboys? When he used to say, he said, "Dry just should go right through me." But he was right. They were damn good. Same token, how many Miami Hurricane fans are pissed off he didn't stay at the U? Oh, vomit. They probably would have had 12 national champions. You wouldn't even be thinking of Nick Saban even being, well, he's good, but he's not the GOAT. The GOAT's Jimmy Johnson with his 38 national champions. I mean, that guy was wrong. And if Jimmy Johnson would have had the NIL rule, I don't know if you would have ever beaten Jimmy Johnson. What's his name? Luke from 2 Live Crew, and the money he was illegally throwing at him in their heyday. Oh, it'd have been a wrap. Florida State would have had a close second though, because Burt Reynolds would have been throwing money at whatever the hell he could throw at it. All right, it's time to turn back time. Get the hell on out of here. We got a pretty good one for take me out to the ball game. It's pretty interesting. But anyways, we're gonna slide past that one. And on this date in 1925. Lou Gehrig hits his first of 23 Grand Slams. Can you imagine having 23 Grand Slams? 23 Grand Slams. Yeah, the thing is, to get 23 Grand Slams in your career, everything has to work in the right. Now, the most Grand Slams in Major League Baseball history technically is A-Rod. I'm not putting him on my list. Oh, Roydy McRoyderson. Lou Gehrig is still the GOAT to me. 23 Grand Slams. Manny Ramirez, a lot of steroids, 21. So number 2 on the real list, Eddie Murray with 19. Willie McCovey and Robbie Ventura. Yeah, the same Robbie Ventura that got his freaking noggin knuckled by Nolan Ryan. You wouldn't. That's the most surprising name on this entire list, Robin Ventura. You could have given me 30 guesses. I would have never guessed him. And then of course Jimmy Fox, Carlos Lee, and Ted Williams at 17. But that is something. 23 Grand Slams. And in the era that he did it, makes it even more. It's insane. Birthdays.
It's your birthday today. What does that mean?
All right. Today, we'll go with a dead guy first, one of the greatest of all time. Pee Wee Reese was born on this date in 1918. 103 years ago. Wow. My mom's favorite baseball player of all time. She still kind of gets emotional if you bring him up. Mainly because he's the famous player that put his arm around Jackie Robinson, and they have statues of him and whatnot. Basically say, get off him. Leave him alone. He's my friend. And the fact that Pee Wee Reese was from Kentucky, from the South, that was a seminal moment that changed a lot of people's eyes in what was going on in the world. But you put that aside, This man, 10-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion, stolen base leader 1952. His LA Dodger number is retired. Had a lifetime batting average. I think it's right at 269. 120 in home runs. It really is dumbfounding that Hall of Fame is not on his resume. It really is. Other guys that are birthdays today. We'll grab the live ones now. It's Gary Payton. He is 53 years old. We all seen the video where Jordan's laughing about whether or not, you know, he was guarding him well. He could do this. Don't let Jordan fool you. Don't let Jordan fool you. Gary Payton was one of the best. There's a reason why they call him the Glove. He was the NBA Defensive Player of the Year in '96, which is the year that they're talking about. 9-time All NBA Defensive First Team. That's what he was realistically known for. Now, he could score. He averaged, 16 points a game? That's not bad. He could rebound. He averaged almost 7 assists a game. But the glove absolutely could and would put it on you. And a lot of people forget this. He won the championship. He does have a ring. 2006 with the Miami Heat. Also, I did 52 years old. I just want to throw this guy, Eldon Campbell, because I don't think a lot of people realistically remember him. Now he was a bench player for the Pistons championship teams in the early 2000s. But what I remember him for, this guy played a long time. What I remember him for, he was coming off the bench as a young pup. He was in the early stages of the early stage of his career towards the end of the Magic era and was still on the team when Shaq and Kobe came around. So I don't believe he ever got an actual championship because by the time that, he finished his career with the Lakers in 99, but he played with Magic and he played with Kobe and Shaq. And of course, James Worthy and, Kareem and all that. But the point is he played with all those great players, never got, he did. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. He was on that 2004 NBA champion team with the Pistons, but he wasn't a major cog in it. He was sitting at the end of the bench by that time. It's amazing that he never won a championship in a Lakers uniform, considering who he played with. All right, we got to get out of here. My walk-off for the day is check out the Olympics. You just might want to turn it off with during the flag ceremony. I know I'm not going to watch it. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend as the weekend kicks off. Monday, we'll be back with Justin Waller, and we're going to have some fun with college football. And make sure to take me out to the ball game today. Some things I didn't have a chance to get into. We're going to dive into that. And of course, we'll do Braves country here in a little bit as well. Have a great day. Thank you for watching the Armchair Quarterbacks, and we will see you next week. And of course, a reminder tomorrow, neighborhood play, 10 a.m. Eastern, Chicago Cubs baseball, Chicago White Sox baseball. Can't wait to get Christian's and Joey's take on Yerman Mercedes on whether or not I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. And then of course we got the payoff pitch. We're gonna do. I'm sorry, that show is at 11 a.m. Eastern. The 10 a.m. Eastern is the payoff pitch. Sean and I are going to go deep into fantasy football tomorrow, so we should have a lot of fun with that. We'll see you mañana, 10 a.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Eastern, respectively.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Gonna get another cigarette.